It's interesting. We had a pretty exhaustive casting process for the three main roles, for the Snow, Sejanus, and Lucy Gray role. And with Snow, we saw a lot of people. And there were a few people that were like pretty interesting, but he kind of came in late to the game and he just kind of knocked it out of the park. There was a quality about him, there was a nuance to his performance. I mean, a real sense of understanding the character. I could also see, even though he had dark hair at the time, that he bore a resemblance to Donald Sutherland a little bit. But there was also just a sense of control in his performance that I really liked. And you could tell that this guy, based on the scenes he was doing, that he had real craft and he really knew what he was gonna do, and he was gonna be really prepared and was gonna be able to really convey the complete sort of emotional arc of this kid, kid who's, you know, desperately like putting on a show with the charisma to sort of fit into society, slowly becoming the monster that is Snow.
A big part of what we first talked about, Francis and I, was what makes Corio tick to begin with, and a lot of that was to do with his ambition for his family. And although he's an ambitious person later on, most of his ambition to kind of fight and become the kind of person who will do anything, do whatever it takes to win, is mostly stemming from his family's needs. And the film begins with his family at like the precipice of like serious hunger, and he will do whatever it takes to get them out of that place. And then that gives way to a Corio who will start to do anything for himself just to get to the top, and watching that kind of crumbling of his morality. Yeah, we talked a lot about where it began and where it ended and how we weaved that path in between. And a big part of it was just kind of building the world and working out what this world was and what that would do to a person.
Tom is such a goofy guy, which I love. I mean, that's so important, because when you're doing heavy subject matter, which this is, so from time to time it gets very heavy, or even when you're just having a light day where you don't have to say anything, or the first day that Tom and I had together working on camera was the explosion in the arena, where the arena gets, you know, exploded into a billion pieces. We were being attacked with air machines and sound machines that just made it look like it was actually exploding in our faces. And I have never laughed so hard in my life. It's like supposed to be this terrifying scene, and then the second we yelled cut, Tom and I were just having so much fun with one another. He's very, very goofy and fun, and at the same time has such a respect for an actor's process, and he has his own. And I learned so much from watching him in between takes and the questions that he asks about text. The text is always very important to him. The script is very important, and the subject material, obviously the book. He cares so much, which is always such a very refreshing thing to realize that they care just as much as you do about whether or not A, that you make a good product, and that B, it feels true to you, and that we feel true to each other in that sense, because this relationship is very important in the context of the story for a lot of reasons. It's not just about the romance, but about the way that they trick one another and the way that they interact with one another. It's a very, very careful, curated moments that Tom and I have worked a lot on behind the scenes. So I got very lucky. He's my favorite male lead I've ever had. Like, truly, I can say that. He is my favorite.
You know, I thought I might find you here sitting all by yourself.
James, what are you doing?
What do you think? To what I did in the arena? My father had to buy the Academy a brand new gym just so I could get my diploma. Tom's a very intellectual person, a very intellectual actor, and he's a really fun person to have like a conversation with about where intention comes from. And, you know, it's sort of the more technical aspects about acting, where you have a scene and then you talk about intention and objective and what does this mean? Like, why do you say this? Like, why do you choose to say this sentence? It's a lot of fun to act with Tom because it might end up in a completely different place than you expected. And, you know, Tom loves to try different things. He loves it when you try different things, and it's those are wonderful people to get to collaborate with.
You seem like a good man, Coriolanus Snow. Sure would have been nice to meet you under different circumstances.
With Rachel, it's sort of a funny story. I almost knew immediately that I wanted Rachel to be in it. And I happened to be in London doing the score for my previous film, and she had just gotten to London because she was doing Snow White for Disney.
But I had just moved there from New York, and I was very lonely and very sad. And I sat down with Francis and we talked for 4 hours about the book, about the other movies, about this movie, and the approach to the character. I had such a fantastic conversation with him.
But I remember, you know, maybe 3 hours and 45 minutes into this meeting, I asked, is there anything else that I can answer for you? And she says, yeah, when does it shoot and where does it shoot?
And he said, well, we're filming in Poland and in Germany, and we would start filming right before you finish the film you're working on right now.
And she went ghost white. And what I realized was we were basically starting 3 days after Snow White ended.
I said, I don't think I can do that. It's so far away. I miss my family, I miss my significant other, I miss my friends, and I don't think I can spend an entire 12 months out of the country. I just don't think I can do it.
And the weirdest thing happened, and this is like a strange kind of combo. We were on the hunt for Sejanus, and we were looking at all these Sejanuses, and nobody was right. And what we realized from the reads is that we actually had the kind of character wrong in the script. So we actually paused on casting Sejanus, rewrote the character all the way through, restarted the process, and then we got Josh as one of the first people. Josh Rivera came in and read the new version of Sejanus, and he was like, he's amazing. So I'm in Berlin, I'm looking at this thing going like, this is definitely Sejanus, he's the one. And Haiti, who's my assistant and second unit director, looked over my shoulder and said, you know, that's Rachel's boyfriend. And I was like, no way.
After we cast Josh, I think she started to have, second thoughts. She had really wanted to do it. She had loved it, but didn't feel like she could just go straight into another show.
So we cast Josh purely because he was the best. But I knew that once we started casting, and now she was probably a few weeks away, maybe a month away from finishing, so she was gonna see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? I was like, I wonder if we're gonna get a call.
Lucy Gray Baird.
The movie I had slated to do got pushed to the next year, and I had kind of caught my second wind for being away from home. And I called my agent and said, do you think they'd still be interested in me over at Hunger Games?
Of course, the job is still open, so I have a long talk with her now really about the character, things that I've learned, especially from reading different people, about the songs, all this kind of stuff. And we decide we want to do a chemistry test, even though Zoom, with her and Tom.
Frances told her, just start the audition by just singing to Tom.
I asked her to sing one of my favorite songs kind of that era, called Wildwood Flower, that was made famous by the Carter family, to do like a kind of slow, romantic a cappella version of it, sing that to him, do that first.
And I sat there and, Zoom doesn't really give you much emotional feedback, but I sat there and I ended up crying just watching her sing, because she has this kind of incredible life in her when she sings, which I've really not seen in many other actors before.
Are you coming to the tree where a necklace of rope side by side with me? Oh, strange things did happen here. No stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree.
I mean, if you can feel that through a Zoom screen, you're definitely going to feel it through an IMAX screen. And then getting to know Rachel has been kind of like one of the joys of my life. We've become really good friends. And yeah, it's very easy to fall in love with Rachel. She's very charming. She brings a lot of kind of raw, fiery energy to what she does, which is exactly what Lucy Gray needs.
Then I got the part that night. They sent my tape to Lionsgate and to Suzanne Collins, and they both signed off, and I got cast. But I originally said no.
How tantalizing to see all your shining young faces on this auspicious day. As the more enlightened of you may have guessed, I am Dr. Volumnia Gall, your humble head game maker in charge of the War Department and all its affiliated concerns.
Viola was always Frances and my first choice. I think he mentioned her early on, and I was like, yeah, that's it.
I love Viola Davis. I love her work. I think she's one of the best actors, living now, if not one of the best actors of all time.
He knew Viola, and before she read the script, when we were sending it to her, Frances reached out and was like, this character, she's on the wacky side. She is a great villain, but she's also quite eccentric, a little bit nuts. And, did she want to play a character It was like this sort of out-of-the-box character that has a really sick, dark sense of humor. And she loved the prospect of that.
You know, the only stipulation about the casting of Viola kind of came from Suzanne, which was just that Suzanne had always imagined Gall being much older than Viola is. So we aged her with the makeup and wigs and things like that.
I was incredibly intimidated to meet Viola.
Is it Lucy Gray? Unless you can put a leash on your deluded classmate, she might as well be dead as far as you're concerned.
I've been watching her for years, and I've been a big fan of her for years.
Breadcrumbs.
We went to the same drama school, so I was also intimidated knowing that she's had the same training that I have, but probably when it was a lot tougher. And so I knew she'd have a thick skin and more tools than I could ever hope to dream of in her toolkit. But she turned up on set and she's incredibly gracious and she's got so much gravitas, but she's generous in the way she works. She brings this kind of explorative nature to her work, which Gall needs, because Gall is like this. I remember Viola and Francis describing Dr. Gall as like a Willy Wonka.
And the original Gene Wilder Willy Wonka, which is there's a sort of a sinister quality that's kind of underneath, but really it's a person who finds joy in the creative ways she's coming up with things. So even if they're horrible things for sort of torture or death or punishment, it's the creative side of it that she finds fun.
And so what Viola has brought to it is this kind of constant playfulness and experimenting, and the way she works, she's always trying something, and then if that doesn't work, she tries something else, and it just feels like she's got this big toolkit that she's just pulling things out of. And as an actor playing with her, you're just kind of like dodging what she throws and then throwing things back, and vice versa, and it just feels so rich at all times.
All of the young actors, you know, worshipped her.
I remember our very first scene together. She walks into the room and 200 heads just turn.
Everyone shuts up. Instantly. I've never seen anything like it. Dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. It was just bonkers. And then she stands up and gives this deliciously unhinged performance that I don't think any of us saw coming.
I just remember her like coming up on this podium and looking at everybody.
And the first thing you hear is this sort of kind of terrifying giggle.
How tantalizing. It was just like, I remember it like shaking me like in my chair, like I didn't know what to do.
I start tearing up. Like, thank God the coverage was on her. Everyone starts tearing up.
My eyes started to well up because I was like, this is the person I've been watching, and I'm in the same room with her. Watching how slow and intentional she is, and how she attacks every single line and word.
Her voice is just amazing. And when she speaks, you're just like, wow. Everything she says, it's just like, yeah, that's how it's meant to be said.
It was so polished and like unnerving and scary and like exciting.
It's been honestly one of the best workshops that I could ever, attend. It's unbelievable.
It's the same with Peter, the first day we worked with him. You know, these are some of the greatest actors alive.
I am now honored to introduce to you the creator of the Hunger Games themselves, Dean Casca Highbottom.
Peter's great. He and I had met about a movie I had done in 2010, and he ended up not wanting to do it because he didn't feel like there was quite enough meat on the bone for him, which I totally agree. There was not. And this one, certainly there's a lot of meat. There's like, there's a real character arc and a lot of reveals and great dialogue, and there was just plenty for him to do. He's just fantastic. I mean, it's like I'd been a fan of his for a long, long time, and then, obviously being a fan of Game of Thrones and what he was able to do with that character. And so to have him on set, I mean, everybody was just sort of enjoying every moment of him.
Peter Dinklage is genuinely one of the best actors I have ever met and had the privilege of working with.
Proud, I see. Like your father.
He is always finding something fresh. We could have done 70 takes, and every single take feels like he's just found something new, which, as an actor, playing against him or opposite him, you can't ask for anything better than that. That is like absolute gold. When every time, you know, it's 70 takes in, and he comes in with like a left turn, a right turn, a right hook, a left hook, and he does it with a smile as well. So it's, you know, it's always kind of, you never know what you're gonna get. And he just loves it. He loves the craft of acting, and so you go into a scene with him and you can't help but love it too.
I would be more concerned with your own survival if I were you. It's fitting that both your parents could be here for your big moment. That compact. How many times did I see your mother use it? I wonder, to powder her beautiful face.
It's very, very addictive, and I wish I could act with him on everything I ever do.
Your little excursion is in violation of about 5 Academy rules, Mr. Snow. Chief amongst them, endangering a capital student.
To see how much he can do with so little, just in his eyes, or just like a little gesture, and that it communicates so much. To see him in this role, it's very easy for an actor to get maudlin. He's a drug addict. He's clearly sort of tortured. You don't exactly know why until you put it all together in the end. It's easy to want to hate the person because he is an antagonist, and yet you're really curious about, like, well, why does he not like him so much? What is it between them? There's an excitement about seeing Peter Dinklage that's really different than seeing any other actor, because people just love and respect and admire him so much.
Chins down, but don't get lost behind those screens. And smile. That's why we have teeth.
When we were coming up with who could we cast for Lucky Flickerman, who is an ancestor of Caesar Flickerman, the Stanley Tucci character from the other movies, and who's a really fun character in the book, Lucky is. Very, very early on, Jason was sort of pitched to me, and I was like really into that idea. I'm just a huge fan of his.
It's this bizarre thing to be able to become a part of something that sort of already exists in people's minds, and there's a world that you can envision and see, and even though this is a prequel and it's a different look and takes place in a different time period, it's just kind of crazy to be able to join something that you've already been a fan of and already been watching, and to kind of picture yourself in the world. It's very bizarre, and it's really fun to watch them shoot it too, as a fan.
In the script, the character Lucky Flickerman, in my opinion, is very, very, very underwritten. And I said, I think there's just a ton of opportunity in any scene you're in to have much more stuff.
Happy Hunger Games, and remember, when your tribute dies, you're out, all right? You know, he's like, there's places in the script where we cut to him, but who knows exactly what the space will be like in those exact moments, and so myself and Mike Leslie, who wrote this, got together, and we were just coming up with yarns and yards of lines and kooky things.
So we have tons of other options for things within scenes.
Our apologies, by the way, for saying the word lover on television. This is going out publicly, you know. We can't say that.
Something about Jason is that he does something new every take with what he says and like the jokes that he makes, and it has us all in stitches every single time. It's always fresh, it's always new, it's always within the character and the confines of the time period that we're in and the situation that we're in. His behavior doesn't ever give in to the fact that it might be a sad, tragic thing, which makes his character so funny and gives that spark of joy that films like this that have very dark situations, like, we need that a little bit, and so it's very lifting. Really fun process. And in shooting, we would actually shoot out almost all the scenes in the auditorium during the middle of the games. We'd usually shoot out, you know, sort of all the characters watching the games, and, you know, Snow and Sejanus and whoever, and anything, and then we would kind of finish our day with 2 or 3 hours left and just shoot Jason, and it would just be versions of Jason doing and trying different things and riffing, and it was fun because he's also, you know, he really is, for the most part, the kind of comedy in the movie. He's brings the levity and a little bit of the relief to the movie, and so you want to make sure you get some of that.
The creator of the Hunger Games, Dean Highbottom. Dean, thank you for all that you do and all that you've done. Is the after party still at your place? It was really fun. I just hope that it was we did an all right job for him.
Are you okay? What happened?
What I love about Hunter is that I find her so wildly endearing, and something so sort of good and honorable and kind of pure about her. And what was great too, and just having different people read, and a lot of people read for the part, is, you know, they were doing this kind of capital affect, and you just could kind of feel this sort of phoniness of trying to be capital. And Hunter kind of came in, and I think she comes from a much more sort of naturalistic school of acting, and she had this kind of really endearing, slightly awkward kind of quality that I really fell in love with, that I thought worked well for the Capitol, worked well for Tigress, worked well for the relationship with Tigress and Snow.
I was curious because my only reference for her was from the previous books, what she looked like in this world, and it was really different. So in a way, I kind of felt like I had some more creative control and like liberty in a way, because you know, this Tigress hadn't been established in the same way that the previous Tigress, and it's still somewhat unclear because we don't exactly know what happens between this story and then. So that was like kind of exciting and encouraging versus like having to fill the character up to like what it's supposed to be set in stone, you know?
You know, she's also, I just think, stunning to look at. So the idea of this woman that's so tall and is into fashion and into style, and who's going to become, you know, this character in the earlier movies 65 years later, you know, you could sort of see how that progression, you know, could happen.
She plays Tigress with this kind of, this lightness and this savviness at the same time, which shouldn't really work, but it does. I don't think she knows it, but she's kind of a genius. She is so fresh every time. Every take is just the kind of like raw, like interior energy just kind of bubbling out. And so you'll be sat opposite her in a scene and she'll just like, you know, it's so natural at all times, and so light and buoyant, and it's beautiful. It's been very easy to kind of play cousins and people who know each other intimately because she's just like an open book, and she's a beautiful actor.
Snow.
Sir?
I received the results of your aptitude test this morning. I'm pretty familiar with the director Francis's work. He's a man of great vision and is very calm and kind and specific, so I was very, very happy to be working with him and the team. Obviously, this is a huge production, and I know how many fans out there are sort of waiting for anything to do with the Hunger Games, so this is really exciting to be in a prequel. I'm working in the last week of production in Berlin, and people are still smiling at each other, which is always a good sign. It's a really good bunch of people, and I'm very happy to be involved.
We got so lucky with our entire group of tributes, from our young kids with Knox and Luna and Sophia and Cooper, and then you have like, you know, our vets, Dimitri and Nick and Mackenzie, Kiel, everybody. I could sit here for hours and talk about how great they are. They're just such salt of the earth individuals, and so happy to be there doing what they're doing and so committed to it.
So we're in Cologne right now in Germany, and we are filming the carriage scene, so when we all get off the trains.
The tributes were in the train for days to travel to the arena, and they're very tired and angry, but still some of them are ready to fight.
This is actually, for my character, this is where he first gets bit by the bat and where he gets rabies. So this is the beginning of the end for Jessa.
When we get to the Capitol, they just throw us in a zoo where we're just shackled together in district pairs, and then from there it's directly to the arena, so it's not like fancy like in the
There's no buffet. We haven't been fed in like 3 days. Haven't been fed since the reaping. We haven't been fed.
And we don't get trained and stuff.
It's very different to the later, the 75th, I think, Hunger Games, where you get sort of enter celebrity status and all of that. No, we just get put in a zoo.
It's funny because like we all have to kill each other, but we also get along like so well. So it's kind of hard to switch to back and forth. But yeah, I mean, all the other tributes, like they're all super talented actors and just like great to work and a fun time. So, you know, it's just always a good time on set with everyone.
You can talk to everyone And no matter how mean the character is, the actors are super nice.
So what's your requested item?
Oh, we were just saying to the lovely viewers at home, we had requested. No, we requested a fun hat to make friends. You could.
I guess we're all a family now, really. We've been together for so long. When you're on a job like this, there's not really anyone else to be with than the rest of the cast, so we've all become really close and we all get along really well.
Because they're just such a fun group of individuals, and they're just the most talented people for the roles as well, which is such a win-win-win for everybody.
Okay.